Okay, welcome guys, welcome back. New week, day number 6. Things are going really good so far, so glad to have everyone here. Hello to everyone in the chat, and let's get started on what I think is going to be a really instructive day. So I want to look at how to use research when you are putting together a novel. So we started looking at this around day 4 last week, page 4. So hopefully today, now that I've had the weekend, I've done a little bit more research on the things that I needed to do some research on, because as I say, I am pantsing my way through this novel, making it up as I go along. So the research really can't be done on the fly. It needs to be done after a few pages have been written, and then I can go back in, put in the relevant research, and that really will dictate how the story develops. So let's have a look back to where we were, and we've got our novel, which is set in Japan. We have our protagonist, Mr. Sharp. He's received a mysterious package from persons unknown, and inside the package is a puzzle box, one of those Japanese puzzle boxes, which was something I already kind of got wrong. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean. But so the puzzle box that I had in my head was one of those ones where you slide around the tiles on the top, and you complete the picture, and then the box opens. So if we have a look back to what I wrote, we have we have this thing, in the back of the taxi. Here it is. Okay, so he opens this package and he finds the puzzle box, and it says the metallic sound had been made by one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to slide around the tiles on the lid in order to solve the picture, at which point the box unlocks. Now there's nothing wrong with that. However, if we have a look at the research that I've just done over the weekend, we can see that actually there's a different kind of puzzle box completely, and that is perhaps a little bit better. So let's bring this up onto the screen, and here we go. So guys, have a look at this, and you'll see. So I'm just on this site of the Culture Trip. This happened to come up, but the puzzle box that that these guys coffee quills. Yeah, we are supposed to finish chapters, believe it or not. That is apparently what the editors tell me. So I know, yeah, madness. So check out this puzzle box, guys. These puzzle boxes that I found online, these are actually more intricate and a little more complex than the ones that I was referring to, that I had in my head when I was writing the original story, the story that I've been writing so far. So these puzzle boxes are the kind where they have very secret compartments, and you have to do a number of different twists and turns and push secret buttons, and you have to do it in a very specific order, or the box won't open. Now, this is where it gets really cool once you start looking at the history. So the history begins, as this article says, nearly 100 years ago in Hakone, Japan. We found out more. I don't know if I'm pronouncing all of these places right, but I think it is Hakone. But let's have a look. So they were just small trinkets for holding odds and ends, like a needle and a thread. As they grew larger and more elaborate, they came to be known as Shikakebako or Teibako, trick boxes or clever boxes. Already those are some pretty cool names that, that'll be helpful. They were a popular souvenir for the tourists, and then, it kind of gives you a little bit of information about where this region is. And we can see a couple of examples of these puzzle boxes and their intricate designs. So the concept of the puzzle box was recognized as having infinite uses beyond keeping children safe from needles. They began to be developed, listen to this, for use by workers to keep their tools safe, by samurai or warlords to send secret messages, or for travelers to protect their belongings during journeys. Now, come on. Samurai or warlords? Let's be honest, that is cool. We are going to use that. I am going to use that. I mean, I'm already talking about the Yakuza in my novel, And the fact that these puzzle boxes, how random is that? I had an idea for a puzzle box, and hey presto, this puzzle box actually goes back in the history, and it says, yeah, we had samurais. Samurais and warlords were using secret messages. Oh my gosh, let's use that immediately, because that is the coolest thing ever. So again, having done the research, put it into your novel, and use this incredible stuff. You can find such incredible things. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you, and now I want to show you how I'm going to potentially use that to correct some of the points in my novel. So this is point number 1, and I'm going to be going back and forth showing you different pieces of research that I've done, and then how I'm going to adapt, how I'm going to put that into the novel and make the novel that I've written so far, how I'm going to make that better. So let's take this off the screen, and let's remember what we just read. So these puzzle boxes, they started out as just personal use items, to protect a bit of valuables for the regular Joe, and or maybe not the regular Joe. What's the average man called in Japan? I don't know. Probably not Joe. But anyway, they were used for those kind of purposes, personal use, and then they became used for by the samurai to transport secret rites, because these boxes were basically impenetrable. So, okay, so let's go back and let's have a look where we introduced the puzzle box. So here we go. It was made of, black onyx, hard and cool to the touch. Okay, the puzzle boxes that I've just seen, they're mostly made of wood. So we need to go back and correct this. So let's say puzzle box was made of let's say black wood. I don't think onyx is a wood, right? As far as I know. But anyway, it was made of black wood, hard, and let's say it was kind of rough to the touch, maybe smooth to the touch. Probably smooth is better, because it's wood. These things are perfectly handcrafted. I bet they're glazed as well, they look like. So let's keep that. And so not the tiles on the lid, but this needs to be more of it was an intricate design, right? So the design was elaborate and intricate, and if you looked at it too hard, it's a bit sort of mesmerizing. Let's just have one more quick look at that puzzle box that I found just before. I was looking at before, and you can see that these patterns, I think deliberately, are very what's the word? They're very like the floor of a casino, right? It's that very, very confusing pattern that if you look too hard at it, it sort of hurts your eyes. And that, of course, is going to lend to the difficulty of how you solve this puzzle box, right? Because your eyes are sort of going, whoa, So look at these designs right here, and you can see that these are, the pattern itself sort of disguises, where the secret compartments might go. So that's something that I should definitely add in to this to this part of the story. So how do we get rid of this? Let's throw that over there. Okay. So yeah, the design was elaborate and intricate and made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. Okay. So again, we want to, very important that whenever you're describing something, make sure you're doing it through the eyes of your character. So whatever he or she feels, how they interpret that object, how they describe it, it must come from them. It shouldn't be like an outside observer telling you what the thing looks like. It's got to be your protagonist saying, it made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. Because we're seeing this whole, especially since we're writing in first person, we're seeing this whole story evolve and play out through the eyes of our protagonist. Okay, so let's do that. I tried, okay, let's see. I tried pushing around tiles, and yeah, there's all these like little intricate bits, pushing around tiles and pressing different spots. I was too flustered. Right, I tried pushing around tiles and you know, I tried trying to open it. Okay, no, so I'm figuring out the code. Figuring out the code to open the box, but I was too flustered to have any patience. It's something like that. Okay, so that's basically what this is going to be changed to. Okay, and then we're gonna come back down. So that's the idea of those puzzle boxes. Let's just keep that in our mind, that these things were used for samurai and warlords back in the day. So if we go a little bit further on, and we had this guy enter the restaurant and meet his protagonist, the 18th captain of the Yakuza, and she is, you know, she introduces herself here, and she says, you know, do you have the puzzle box that I sent you? You know, the puzzle box, she said eventually. So this guy takes it out, and she's saying, you know, still unsolved, I see, blah, 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 blah. And we have this history of the puzzle box. So when I was writing, you know, on day whatever this was, day 5, I said, right, we should definitely get the history of the puzzle boxes, because this is a antagonist, this is a character who loves to talk, and one of the things she's going to talk about, and one of the things we need to know as the audience, is why in the world did she send a puzzle box to our protagonist, right? It's a bit of a weird thing to do. So this history of the puzzle box is going to inform that. So let's see how we can shape, you know, brush this up based on what we learned. So so we know where they were made. So let's just go here. She doesn't need to say. So this is one thing, by the way, immediately that I want to tell everyone, is that you don't need to state a question so, you know, blatantly like this. Do you know the history of puzzle boxes? It's not great dialogue. Just, you know, go straight into it, because this woman is in control. This the 18th captain of the Yakuza. She doesn't ask questions. She just speaks, and she expects people to keep up with her. She's that kind of character. So okay, let's do some writing here based on our research. So the first puzzle boxes. Okay, first puzzle boxes were made. Sorry, were made in, what was it? Hakone, right? Hakone, I think that's right. We're in Hakone. Hakone, I think that's how you spell it. Were made long ago. Were made long ago in Hakone. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, and they were, you know, they were a safeguard. A safeguard. How should we say this? For, you know, personal jewelry, and like basically keeping children from touching those needles, right? So, and keeping children and keeping children's fingers, right? That's instant imagery right there. Children's fingers from, you know, I guess sewing needles they must have been, because what other kind of needles are we talking about? This is 150 years ago. So okay, so we don't need this. This is funny. You know, I thought maybe that these puzzle boxes might have been used, you know, as a gift to an emperor. You can kind of imagine that, but the research says nope, that is not the case. They were not made for that, but they were made for, oh my gosh, how cool is this? Samurai and warlords. Okay, so for everyone just joining us in the chat, I'm just talking about how I'm going to be using this research that I did on these Japanese puzzle boxes to make the story that I've written so far more interesting, more deep, and, you know, just so much better than it actually was in my head originally, because now it's given me ideas of where this story can go. So the power of research, you know, very important. Okay, so let's keep writing this a little bit. So the first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone, said Kyori Matsumoto. A safeguard for personal jewelry, right? A safeguard for personal jewelry, yeah. And keeping children's fingers safe from sewing needles. Okay, but as they're, you know, so then obviously these things must have become more elaborate, and then eventually they were used by the, you know, the samurai and the Japanese warlords. So, but as let's say as their complexity grew, or as their complexity grew, their okay, let's just put what we want to say. The samurai and ancient warlords. Are you guys keeping up with this? How does this sound so far? Any thoughts from the chat? 1 second. Why is the chat not coming up? There we go. Okay. Right. So they began to use them. What did these Japanese warlords and what did they start to do? So the samurai and ancient warlords, I guess, began using them to pass along their secret messages. Right. That's what it said. Pass along their. What did it say? Yeah. Pass along their secret messages. Their secret messages, which is just the coolest thing in the world ever. So absolutely. And then if we think about it, so the history goes back to these warlords using these boxes, these Japanese puzzle boxes, to pass along their secret messages. Well, so too now will our Yakuza, right? I'm taking a bit of liberty with the Yakuza and what they do. Perhaps the Yakuza, the Japanese mob, also use these puzzle boxes for their own purposes. So let's make that the case. Okay, I received right, EI, right? I received a similar puzzle box. Okay, upon my ascendancy. She talks like this character. She's very proper. She's very, high class, right? She's a bit of a Japanese princess. So I received a similar puzzle box upon my ascendancy to Yakuza captain. So let's go ahead and put that in. And then, doesn't that read so much better? So let's have a look at what we've got, right? The first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone, said Kuri Matsumoto, a safeguard for personal jewelry and keeping children's fingers from sewing needles. But as their complexity grew, the samurai and ancient warlords began using them to pass their secret messages. I received a similar puzzle box when, upon my ascendancy to Yakuza captain. Excellent. And then our guy makes this quip. Yeah, I didn't realize the Japanese mob was so liberal, and that kind of gets to her a little bit. So, okay. Next thing is this Yakuza captain. She continues her train of thought, right? So she's saying, it took me 5 weeks to solve that box, and then, you, Mr. Sharp, will have 2 minutes, right? And that's basically it, right? That whole thing comes together now in such a nice way. We understand that implicitly what she's saying. She's saying, I received a similar puzzle box, and it was sort of a challenge to me when I became captain, when I became initiated into the Yakuza. And now she's giving this puzzle box to our guy, to our protagonist. So there is something in that. It's a test. It is a welcome to the Yakuza. We get the impression that perhaps the reason that she has called our protagonist to this meeting is that she's about to make him an offer. Okay, she's about to indoctrinate him into a life that perhaps he's not quite ready for, something like that. So that's where that little piece of research has got me, which is incredible. Let's look at now another piece of research that I was doing, and that is about Japan itself. So I've set this novel in Japan, it seems, and we're in Tokyo, and so I've just gone onto Wikipedia and just looked up, how the city of Tokyo is broken up into these special wards. Wards are essentially the same as, like in London, you have different like councils. You've got Barnet, all these kind of different places. Tokyo is also split up into similar municipalities. So now it says here that number 4 of the special ward number 4 is Shinjuku, which is the place where I've set this novel. So that's just a little bit of information that will add some weight to what the protagonists and what the antagonists say. So I want to include this information, and I know exactly where I want to include it. It's where our antagonist introduces herself. We had this bit, right? This powerful bit. The woman ate a spoon of soup and licked her lips, and then she delivers this incredible line. My name is Kuri Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, and she lays claim to the 5th District Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo. So actually, I was pretty close having guessed this thing. So it's actually number 4. It's actually the 4th district. The 4th district Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo. Now, I think we can make this just that little bit better. Remember, you've got to think, how do your characters speak? How do they actually speak? And then you have to write dialogue in that voice. So this character, this Yakuza captain, I have the impression that she's a very cold person. She doesn't show much emotion. She's kind of robotic, but she has a great sense of pride and respect, and everything about her is with great dignity, right? So let's use that in this. So she would talk in she wouldn't talk in one long sentence. She would take her time, okay? She says one thing and then she moves on to the next thing. So my name is Kuri Matsumoto. She lets that set in, okay? So it should be a full stop, okay? Yakuza Captain 18, and then there should be something like, head of the clan Matsumoto. She loves to just talk. She loves to reinforce who she is and the power that she wields. So Matsumoto, head of the clan Matsumoto, right? They don't say family, they say clan. She's got a clan. That's the kind of vocab, that's the kind of vernacular that she's going to use. It stays true to her character. I like this bit. And she who lays claim, head of the clan Matsumoto, and she who lays claim to the 4th district, what did we say they were called? Not districts, wards. They were special wards. The 4th ward, Shinjuku, of the great city Tokyo. I think the 4th ward, Shinjuku, of the great city Tokyo. Now read that. Doesn't that read so much better? My name is Kuri Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, head of the clan Matsumoto, and she who lays claim to the 4th ward Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo. I mean, that's a pretty cool title. That's exactly the kind of thing that we want. And then our guy is just sitting opposite her, Mr. Cool, Mr. Witty, and he's going, James Sharp, troublesome Tanuki. He just keeps it short. And that's what we were saying last week. If you've got one character who loves to talk and is very loquacious, you want their opposite character in the conversation to be very short and terse, because that increases the conflict in a very subtle way. It's just one person likes to talk, the other person likes to keep it short. So even that is conflict in itself. Okay, so what were the other? Where else needed editing in this chapter? Let's read it through, and we will and we'll see how this is coming together now. So. Okay, so he walks into the Greenbird restaurant to be at this interview, and this is what happens. The place was empty, except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good-looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it really wasn't a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these 2 would trip over him if they tried to chase me. I joined the woman at her table, but said nothing. There is a story we tell children, she said, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her, about a troublesome tanuki who plagued an honest farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market and made a soup. Cry and cry did the tanuki to be let free. Now the farmer's wife was kind and took pity on the little creature, but no sooner did she untie it did the tanuki kill her and chop her into pieces and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shapeshifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. All of that coming from the research, that story that I looked at last week. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen, I think she does snap her fingers. It's just going to be easier. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of steaming soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. "Go ahead," she said. And in there is all that subtext, that rich subtext. She's just told this whole story of, you know, the farmer and the tanuki. Obviously, in this scene, she's calling our protagonist. She's subtly hinting, you know, you are the troublesome tanuki. And then she says, you know, go ahead, eat the soup, as if maybe she has killed our protagonist's wife, or rather ex-wife, that we know he has. So it's lending that, all that subtext is just great, right? We the readers, the audience is reading between the lines and they're loving it. They're like, oh wow, is this really what happened? So subtext is absolutely essential for dialogue. So let's keep watching and keep seeing how I develop that and run with that. So go ahead, she said. I glanced at the fire door again. That's a children's story, I asked her, but my feet were dancing under the table. So, you know, he's playing the joke. He's playing the joker. He's trying to be cool in this situation, in this dire situation. Then the woman ate a spoon of soup and licked her red lips, and she delivers this powerful introduction. Okay, and then he says, you know, James Sharp, I said, spooning my own soup, troublesome tanuki. He gets it, right? He's telling her in that 2 words, he's telling her, I understand, I get what you're about. Yeah, I'm smart enough to understand your subtext, and I'm not afraid of you. That's essentially what he's saying. He's being bold, he's being brash, he's being disrespectful to what is essentially a very, very powerful person, and very dangerous person, a captain of the Yakuza, the Japanese mob. So we're finding out more and more about our characters and how they react under pressure, which is one of the best ways to see what your characters are made of. Put them in dire situations and see what they do. Okay, so this is the page that really needed, in my opinion, the most work. This next page coming from here. So I've just said before, and I want to reinforce this point, is that all of your prose should be written through the eyes of your protagonist. So where we have here, my charms were lost on her. She just continued to eat soup like a queen before a pauper. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise, as if choreographed by a ballet dancer. Right, we sat there for 2 minutes saying nothing, the only sound coming from our soup bowls. Okay, it already doesn't read right. You can hear that it doesn't quite read right. But what I want to do is just make this a little bit sharper. So I couldn't quite, it's like I couldn't quite tell, or just forget the quite. I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her, you know, because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen. Okay, remember this captain of the Yakuza. In my mind, she has to be a very cool character in the sense of cold. She is, you know, almost robotic. She shows no emotion when she is in her day-to-day life. She's absolutely, you know, robotic. She doesn't show her emotions. Whereas our protagonist, as we've already seen, he has a temper, right? He has a temper. He's angry. He's got an attitude problem. He has problems with women. So it's that you want one character one way, and then you want the other character, the antagonist, to be almost the exact opposite in every way. So she's loquacious. She loves words. She loves to talk. Our guy, he doesn't like to talk. He uses very limited words when he speaks. He's very passionate and angry, and his emotions run wild. She is very restrained, reserved, regal, right? Those two things, you know, will play off each other really well. So let's use that and let's make this better. So he's talking about her face, and again, we can use this to just deepen the image of her in the reader's mind. So, you know, if you imagine these, if you've ever seen some of these Japanese makeup artists, they really are incredible. And, you know, this girl, she's going to have, you know, this woman, she's going to have, you know, a flawless complexion. And I think it's better to say, you know, like a doll. It's something like that, because, you know, dolls, again, lending that imagery, those Japanese dolls, a little bit weird, a little bit scary. So yeah, let's keep that in, and as if choreographed. Okay, so don't want to mix metaphors here. So let's read it through. I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her, because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen. So our protagonist is already saying, I'm at a disadvantage, right? This woman, she is good, right? So the best poker face I'd ever seen, a flawless complexion, like a doll. She continued to eat her soup. Okay, since we had the like a doll, we don't need this. She continued to eat her soup. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise as if choreographed. Okay, and then that's fine. You know, the only sound coming from our soup bowls. So does our guy eat the soup? I don't know. He is trying to play Mr. Cool, so we might leave that in. Okay, very good. So that's that little bit of editing done, and it does read a lot better already. And so keep reading down, and I'll show you the last bit that I really wanted to go through today, and how to end chapter well, or at least how to end a scene well. And this is something that editors have really gone through me, have really you know, told me over and over again that it needs to be done. So let's read. Okay, so yeah, I took it out of my pocket. This is the puzzle box. Put it on the table, but I said nothing. I wanted her to do all the talking. Still unsolved, I see, she said, and sounded disappointed. She was beginning to get on my nerves. That was the same tone Sabrina used to use when I came home late from a job. Still alive then, right? So that ex-wife again, we're bringing it back. We're recalling it to the reader's mind, because apparently that's going to be important later. The first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone, said Kuri Matsumoto, a safeguard for personal jewelry and keeping children's fingers from sewing needles. But as their complexity grew, the samurai and ancient warlords began using them to pass their secret messages. I received a similar puzzle box upon my ascendancy to Yakuza captain. Yeah, I didn't realize the Japanese mob was so liberal, I said. That was the first time I saw a grimace. It was a dangerous game to play, but I had to keep pushing her buttons if I wanted her to talk. So far, she'd been in complete control. She seemed to know everything about me, and I knew nothing about her. If I was going to make any progress, I had to assert myself, so I fired my mouth and ate my soup. Now, I want to be careful here, the first time I saw a grimace, because, again, I don't want her to leak any information. I want her to be a very cold character, someone who doesn't show information, someone who doesn't reveal their emotions. So this line might need to be changed, but for the moment, let's keep that in and just see how this develops, because it gets a little bit worse than that in a second. So it took me 5 weeks to solve that box. She said, in the corner of my eye, I saw one of her bodyguards pull out a gun. You, Mr. Sharp, will have 2 minutes. So she's delivering this, ultimatum: solve it or I'm going to kill you. And we want to know how this guy reacts. So I continued to eat my soup. I wasn't about to play a game, nor did I have to. A bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her, and besides, the soup was pretty tasty. So this is the part where editing needs to be done. Okay. Well, let's put that on that line. So the 18th captain of the Yakuza finally seemed to be on the back foot. She checked her watch with a clenched jaw. This is no good, because this completely goes against the type of character that she is. This character does not lose her cool. This character is she has zero emotion. She is cold. She's a computer. She is soulless. Whereas our guy is, he's cool, but he's got a temper and an attitude. So we can't let this Yakuza captain, have a clenched jaw and get angry. She's got to react coldly, right? So we definitely don't want to have that. Besides, the soup was pretty tasty. So let's build that reaction in. So once our guy, sort of smashes the puzzle box, I'm not playing your game. I'm just going to smash it. I don't need to, be made a fool out of and try and work out this intricate code to the box. I'm just going to smash it, right? So he goes, he raises the soup spoon above his head, smashes it down on the puzzle box, shatters it open, and busting open the contents. Solved, I said, right? Now, this antagonist, the 18th captain of the Yakuza, how's she going to react to that? Do you think about that, guys? How's she going to react to that? She's not going to be, oh my gosh, how dare you break my puzzle box? She's not going to have him shot. She's just going to casually look at the thing, zero emotion, and then, it's that whole thing of, I'm trying to rattle your cage and it's not working. That's what I'm trying to show here. So he does that, and then she glanced at the broken puzzle box. Let's see. We said she had long lashes, right? Her long lashes sweeping casually. Does she sweep? Yeah, casually to the side. Right. Let's just put down all these little ideas, and then we'll tidy up the sentences in a second. So she didn't flinch. She's very robotic. She dabbed her lips. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. Maybe the bodyguards in the background are going a bit ballistic. Like, how dare you show such insubordination before our captain? But she herself is remaining quite cool. She fixed her eyes on me for a moment, and then for a moment, right, and then turned to her bodyguard and then turn to a bodyguard. Okay, and then we can just put, she either says, put the gun away, or better yet, right? Tell them to serve the fish. Okay, now this is what I'm talking about with subtext. Serve the fish. Okay. And actually, you know what we could do? We could go back here. Okay, I will explain this in a second. Let me just put it in while I still have it in my mind. Where does she say? You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. Okay. Right, now let me just explain what I've done there, because I'm talking about... I really want to drill home this point about dialogue and subtext, because it is so important. And it always makes my writing, always makes anyone's writing so much better. So let's go through this again. Go through it point by point. So this guy walks into this meeting. He sees this woman sitting at a table. He doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know what he's there for, but obviously it's a bad situation because he's got, these two bruisers, behind him, and there's seemingly no way out except this fire escape, this fire door in the far corner of the room. So that's, loading the context. This is a dire situation. The guy is in trouble. That's the context. The woman glances at the chair, and he knows he's got to go and sit in that chair. So he goes and sits there, and this woman, she doesn't introduce herself immediately. She doesn't say, hi, hello, my name is whatever. No, she just starts talking. That tells us so many things about her, that she is totally in control of this situation. She doesn't abide by any rules, any rules of society. She's essentially being very rude here. She barely acknowledges this guy. She just goes into a story, essentially insulting our guy and saying, you're a troublesome tanuki playing around in my field, right? And that's not going to fly, right? She's just giving him a threat, a straight out threat. So she delivers this line about this whole thing about the tanuki. She's using this children's story to, begin to threaten our protagonist straight out of the gate. This is the first thing she does. She threatens our protagonist, and in a very passive aggressive way. And at the same time, we learn that she likes to talk, because that's a huge chunk of dialogue. So, very good. Next, she, snaps her fingers, and from the kitchen comes a waiter who puts 2 bowls of steaming soup in front of us, and the woman smiles. You can imagine this cinematically. The waiter coming out, puts the 2 bowls down just after she's delivered this whole thing about, a farmer having to eat a soup that was made out of his wife, right? And she's saying, go ahead. It's a test. The whole thing is a test, right? I've just told you this story, and now I'm saying, eat this soup, right? Eat this soup. Go ahead. How cool are you, right? How comfortable are you in my presence? Because she likes to assert her dominance. That's what she's doing. And it's all through subtext, right? So go ahead, she said. We've loaded the context. The subtext there is obvious. Go ahead. I'm testing you. And our guy glances at the door and he says, that's a children's story, right? And, he's saying back to her, I'm not afraid of you, right? I'm going to be Mr. Cool. You're trying to scare me? I'm not going to be scared. But he doesn't say that. He says that's a children's story. He focuses on the minutiae. He pretends like he's missed the entire point of the story, and he's just focused on this tiny thing. That's a children's story. Are you serious? A farmer having to eat his wife, and then and then the antagonist, she finally delivers this line of who she is, and this is totally expository, yes. But the point is, if you do have a line that is expository like this, it will have such a bigger impact on the audience when it is surrounded by dialogue that is completely subtextual. So again, it's that opposites. Your whole conversation is subtext, and then one line comes in that is just totally overt. It's, we're gonna kill him. I am this person. You're gonna die. All of those things, they will stand out so much more because they are against a background of something a little bit more subtle. So that's basically the only line here that is that has that is expository. I hope this is making sense to you guys. I'm just showing you my thought process and why these edits have to be done. James Sharp, I said, spooning my own soup, troublesome tanuki. We know the subtext there too. Okay, I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen, a flawless complexion like a doll. She continued to eat her soup. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise as if choreographed, well in advance. We sat there, that little bit just saying that, she's probably a strategic thinker. It just lends a little bit of that to it, well in advance. We sat there for 2 minutes. Saying nothing. The only sound coming from, I think it's coming from her soup bowl. Or what might even be better is that, again, I want to, that's very kind of passive. This, we sat there for 2 minutes saying nothing. We sat there for 2 minutes. Okay, so these red lips of hers, right? Let's use them. I couldn't help watching her red lips glide over her soup spoon. Her soup spoon. Okay, that just, again, I'm adding a little bit more tension in. This guy, maybe he's really attracted to this Yakuza captain. Let's bring a little bit of sexual tension into it. The more conflict, the better, right? He's afraid of her, but he's also attracted to her, right? It's that's the whole purpose of that is drama. That is it. It's conflict. The more conflict you can build in, and that's just one line, right? But it tells us so much. So how's this going to read, right? I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen, a flawless complexion like a doll. She continued to eat her soup. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise as if choreographed well in advance. We sat there for 2 minutes, saying nothing. So this line is the thing, that, as if choreographed well in advance. We sat there for 2 minutes, saying nothing. I couldn't help watching her red lips glide over a soup. Okay, whatever. I don't really. That's the idea for that. We can make it better, when we come back for the second draft of the novel. But that's basically it. Okay, so then so the puzzle box. Now she gets down to business. She doesn't say, "Do you have the puzzle box?" She just assumes that he has it. He better have it. So the puzzle box, she said. Eventually, I took it out of my pocket and put it on the table, but I said nothing. I wanted her to do all the talking. This guy is now informing us why he's acting the way that he's acting. He's doing it as a strategic thing. He knows that he's on the back foot. He's been called here. He's sort of done everything that she's asked. So now he is saying, I'm trying to annoy her because I need to get information, right? So, still unsolved, I see, she said, and sounded disappointed. She was beginning to get on my nerves. I was the same tone Sabrina used to use when I came home late from a job. Still alive then. This Yakuza captain delivers, this history of the Japanese puzzle box. Our guy makes another quip. Then it took me 5 weeks to solve that box, she said. In the corner of my eye, I saw one of her bodyguards pull out a gun. You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. Okay. So we can't have him continue to eat his soup because... okay, she was... so this is the important line. The important line here is that, he's not about to play her game, and nor does he have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her. So he needs... okay, that's better. This goes at the end. So I picked up my spoon. So this is not the best line. It's a joke, but we said, a lot of these jokes probably aren't going to make it into the final cut. So I picked up my soups. I picked up my spoon, and dug into my soup. All right. Okay. So just one my. Okay. Okay, you, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. Okay, and then he needs to say something before this. There just needs to be a little bit here. He can't just immediately say, I wasn't about to play a game and nor did I have to. Finish my soup. Okay. As threats go, it was a pretty weak one. Okay. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her. Something like that. So this line might not need to be there. You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. Okay. This is better. Not like that. It's something like, Nice try, I thought. But I wasn't about to play her game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her. So it's not nice try, it's more like, yeah, do me a favor, love, right? It's do me a favor, because, you know, he has this problem with women. He has an attitude towards women. And this is a great chance for us to see that side of him, that sort of, you know, oh, you're a woman, and I think, you know, you're not as good as me because I'm a man. You know, that's this guy's whole attitude problem. So that can be delivered here. You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. So it's not quite, you know, nice try, love, I thought, but it could be something like that. I smirked. Nice try, love, I thought. But I wasn't about to. It's something like that, right? And let's put that in just a different, more legible font. Okay, it's something like that. You get the idea. Basically, what I'm saying is his reaction here is quite in keeping with his character. This is a character who has a bit of a problem with women, and that needs to be reflected in his reactions. Yeah. So nice try, love, I thought, nice try, love, I thought, but I wasn't about to play a game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her, so I picked up my spoon and dug into my soup. Okay, so this immediately needs to be changed. Dug into my soup. Okay, she watched me. What's a good word here? Languidly? And dug into my soup. She watched me. Again, she doesn't show reaction, so she's just going to watch him. She watched him intently. You know, 1 spoon, 2 spoons. I'm trying to build that tension. So, you know, he just sort of, his whole reaction is, you know, she says, "You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup." I smirked. Nice try, love, I thought, but I wasn't about to play a game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her, so I picked up my spoon and dug into my soup. And dug into my soup. Okay, so now they're both eating their soup. Both eating their soup. Okay. I waited until she was down to her last spoonful. Okay, so there might need to be something here that makes him react. And dug into my soup. Again, my insubordination didn't seem to get to her. Alright. So I decided to test that cool exterior with a bit of shock treatment. Okay. So now he's saying why he does it like this. Okay. I waited until she was down to her last spoonful, and then snapped up my spoon, and then snapped up my spoon, raised a bit of head, and smashed it down on the puzzle box, shattering the damn thing and busting open the contents. Solved, I said. And now he's watching for her reaction. Okay, so they're both testing each other, right? She, the Yakuza captain, has, you know, given him this puzzle box. She started with the soup that was, you know, obviously not his ex-wife, but nevertheless, that was test number 1. Test number 2, go ahead and solve this puzzle box while I eat my soup. He has given, you know, he's giving her lip, he's giving her attitude, he's testing her cool exterior, seemingly cool exterior, and then he goes and smashes this thing, tries to shock her, see if he can get a reaction out of her that way. They're both playing for power, but in a very, very subtle way, okay? So that's basically what I'm trying to do here. Again, my insubordination didn't seem to get to her, so I decided to test that cool exterior with a bit of shock treatment. I waited until she was down to a last spoonful, and then snapped up my spoon, raised it above my head, and smashed it down on the puzzle box, shattering the damn thing and busting open the contents. Solved, I said. So now he's got to say, that she doesn't flinch, okay? So how do we say that? So I want to say that she didn't flinch, but I've already said that down here. So, but this is just a very stale line, right? It's just she didn't flinch. It's not that interesting, a line. It's something like, if I got the impression that if a bomb would go off, she might yawn, right? That's not a bad line, actually. I got the impression that if a bomb went off, she might yawn, something like that. So she just glanced at the broken puzzle box, her long lashes sweeping casually to the side as she took in, right, her long lash sweeping casually to the side. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. She fixed her eyes on me for a moment and then turned to her bodyguard. Tell them to serve the fish. And, this is a great last line. This works as a great last line because, again, it's full of subtext. It's, okay, you've passed the test, right? She said to our protagonist, solve this puzzle box. And she meant, go through all the motions. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to smash it. I'm going to show you that I'm as powerful as you and I'm not afraid of you. And, she's impressed. But she doesn't say, I'm impressed or you've passed the test or great. We want that to be in the subtext. So she just sort of looks at the bodyguard, having just finished her soup, and says, okay, go ahead, tell them to serve the fish, right? And we're into the next part of this conversation. So now I want to talk about so this is a great way to finish. This could be the end of the chapter, absolutely. But what I want to go through right now is some mistakes that we all make and that can all be made here. Number one is that this scene, as it stands at the moment, is very is a high impact scene, right? It's the clash of two. It's the clash of protagonist and antagonist. So it's a powerful scene. It has a lot of energy, and there are some great lines already in there, I think. There's this great back and forth, and what the problem is, we've sort of built up this climax, right? Right here, him shattering and busting open the that's a bit of a climax. That smash, right? That's a climax. That's a big bang. That's the bomb going off, and then there's a denouement, right? Then there's a denouement. So you've reached the climax of your novel on a macro scale, and then you have that little scene at the end where the guy and the girl ride off into the sunset. Essentially, that's this bit here where the antagonist just looks at the broken puzzle box and says, "Okay, tell them to serve the fish." So we've reached a climax of the film of the scene where possibly this guy was about to get shot. Okay, because he'd been so insubordinate to this Yakuza captain, so insubordinate. We just built the entire scene up to this climax, right? The Yakuza captain said, solve this box or I'm going to kill you. And what does our guy do? He just smashes the box. He doesn't bother with solving it. He smashes it. He's just so rude to her, basically. And we think, oh my gosh, she's about to get shot here. He's pushed the envelope too far. But no, he hasn't. This the Yakuza captain says, okay, serve the fish, right? Next course, you've made it to the next round. And that is the subtext hidden within that line, and that's why it needs to be, and that's why that line works. That's line, or why a line like that will work. So this would be an appropriate place to end the chapter, because now we want to see, what's going to happen in the next course, right? Already we've had such a big scene so far, so it's always good to try and get out of a scene as quick as you can. All right, that's one of the rules. Certainly, screenplay of a screenplay is that you want to come into the scene as late as possible, and you want to leave the scene as early as possible. Cut out all of the fat. That's what you need to do. So, whereas a first-time author, certainly something that I did was I would just continue this scene, a long time. But we've already had a climax and a denouement, so really we need to have a break. We need to have a different scene. We need to have maybe something in the future, something in the past, or we need to cut to another chapter. It just gives that sense of a pause, and then we can come back in and go to the next part. So let's read through now the whole thing, and we can see, is this where the chapter ends? Because if it is, then it will be obvious. So let's read through the whole thing, everything that we've written, and let's see if chapter 1 now is finished. Here we go. Chapter 1. I'm going to tell you a story which you'll believe, and then I'll tell you the truth, which you won't. It goes like this. 3 days after I arrived in Japan, I came back to my hotel and the concierge told me that a package had been left for me. She was wrong. I wasn't expecting a package. I didn't know anyone in Japan, nor had I told anyone that I was coming here. So who could be sending me a package? But she held it out to me all the same. It was a standard brown envelope, about A4 in size, with no obvious markings, not even my name. I asked who had left it, but the concierge told me that it was her colleague who had accepted the package, and so she didn't know. Needless to say, I shouldn't have taken it, but I've never been one to make good decisions. The package felt heavier than it looked, and I heard a metallic sound inside. I'd once watched a documentary about those postal bombs back in need to do the research there. They'd been filled with all sorts of scrap metal or shrapnel and probably made the same noise just before they'd gone off. Not that I'm one of those paranoid nutcases, but I do have an ex-wife. No, said a voice in my head, Sabrina wouldn't kill me via unmarked postal bomb. She'd use FedEx. Is everything all right, sir? Asked the concierge. I don't suppose you'd open this for me. Sir? No, I didn't think she would, nor did I get the chance to convince her, because another guest, some big fat American woman, barged me out of the way in order to check herself in. My God, I thought, she could have killed us all. I took the package back to my room on the second floor, sat at the desk, and after a few minutes of silent contemplation, I opened the package and looked inside. The metallic sound had been made by one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to slide around the tiles on the lid. So actually we changed this, so we'll come back and do that. The kind we have to slide right, at which point the box unlocks. There was also a slip of paper inside. Its message had been written in cursive hand and read as follows. I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what you're looking for. Be at the Green Bird restaurant at 7 p.m. P.S. Bring the puzzle box. I rushed to the window and looked down at the street. I saw pedestrians, all sorts, going about their business, but nothing stood out as odd. Nobody looking up at my window, nobody in the adjacent building looking across into my room. I went to the door, checked the hallway, nothing there either. Turning back to my room, nothing seemed out of place. I'd left the do not disturb sign on the door, and I knew the maid hadn't been in because the bed was still unmade from the morning. I checked the closet. Nothing appeared out of place. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing was missing. I rang down to reception to see if anyone had called the room today, but nobody had. I paced back and forth, staring at the opened package. Who was this person? How did they know who I was? And more importantly, how did they know why I was here? And who the hell sends a puzzle box anyway? Not Sabrina, that was for sure. She hated puzzles, and besides, she'd have written the message in blood. The alarm clock showed just after 6:15 in the evening. I knew there was a flight back to London at 7:10. If I hurried, I could make the airport in time. No, I'd spent too long getting to this point. If I missed this opportunity now, I'd never get it back again, but I couldn't take any chances. I called down to the concierge and had them order me a taxi to the Green Bird restaurant. Then I grabbed the puzzle box and headed out. In the back of the taxi, I examined the puzzle box. It was made of black wood, hard and smooth to the touch. The design was elaborate and intricate and made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. I tried pushing around tiles and figuring out the code to open the box, but I was too flustered to have any patience. The design was elaborate and intricate, made my head right. Okay, so let's just go back and correct this because I know how to correct this now. There's one that's the kind where you have to input a series of predetermined moves in order to unlock the box. Okay, the types I've written one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to input a series of predetermined moves. Okay, that's not quite clear. One of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to input. We have to input a series of in order to unlock the box. Okay, whatever. We'll come back to it. So at the back of the right, the design was elaborate and intricate. It made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. I tried pushing around the tiles and figuring out the code to open the box, but I was too flustered to have any patience. How the hell had someone found me? Damn, I cursed. And the taxi driver shot me a look in the rearview mirror. I gave him a dirty look back. Problem? I said. Traffic's bad, he said, neatly, and gives a reason. I told him to step on it. We moved through the streets of Shinjuku. This was the red light district, I knew. Lots of gambling, prostitution, and lowlives this side of town. The kind of people I deal with a little too much for my liking. Then again, that's how I'd met Sabrina. I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. Thank you, Book Gravy, for following. Really appreciate that. Great to have you here. Please do contribute as much as you can. So thank you. And another one, thank you for Itanshi. Wow, great to have you here. Really appreciate all you guys who are following this channel. Hope you're enjoying it. Please do share your thoughts in the chat as we keep going. So, okay. Then again, that's how I met Sabrina. I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. I'd planned everything meticulously, right down to the cover ID I'd made. The taxi pulled up about 30 minutes after we'd left the hotel. The driver told me the Green Bird was about halfway down the bustling street to our left. I couldn't miss it. But I walked straight past the place without giving it a single glance. I wasn't about to just walk into some random restaurant without checking out the place first. I had no idea who or what I was dealing with, and if things went to hell, like they often did, I needed to know I could get out quickly. There was an alleyway beside the restaurant. It had a fire escape going to the roof, and a couple of dumpsters that I could smell all the way from the street. There was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters with a needle sticking out of his arm. Nobody seemed to care. I checked my watch. It was 5 to 7, 5 minutes before I'd been told to be here. That I was walking into a trap was obvious, but I'd come too far now. 3 years looking for it, I couldn't back off now. We still need to figure out what this looking for it is. We'll come back, we'll get that. So I took a breath and walked into the Green Bird, straight into a trap. The place was empty, except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good-looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it really wasn't a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these 2 would trip over him if they tried to chase me. I joined the woman at a table but said nothing. "There's a story we tell children," she said, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her, about a troublesome tanuki who plagued an honest farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market and made a soup. Cry and cry did the tanuki to be let free. Now the farmer's wife was kind and took pity on the little creature, but no sooner did she untie it, did the tanuki kill her and chop her into pieces and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shape-shifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of steaming soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. "Go ahead," she said. I glanced at the fire door. "That's a children's story?" I asked her, but my feet were dancing under the table. The woman ate a spoon of soup and licked her lips. "My name is Kyori Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, head of the clan Matsumoto, and she who lays claim to the 4th Ward Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo." "James Sharp," I said, spooning my own soup. "Troublesome tanuki." I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen, a flawless complexion like a doll. She continued to eat her soup. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise as if choreographed well in advance. We sat there for 2 minutes, saying nothing, the only sound coming from her soup bowl. Her soup bowl. I couldn't help watching her red lips glide over a soup spoon, building that tension. "The puzzle box," she said eventually. I took it out of my pocket and put it on the table. But I said nothing. I wanted her to do all the talking. "Still unsolved, I see," she said, and sounded disappointed. She was beginning to get on my nerves. That was the same tone Sabrina used to use when I came home late from a job. "Still alive then?" I'm not sure I like this line, but whatever. The first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone," said Kyori Matsumoto. "A safeguard for personal jewelry and keeping children's fingers from sewing needles. But as their complexity grew, the samurai and ancient warlords began using them to pass their secret messages. I received a similar puzzle box upon my ascendancy to Yakuza Captain." "Yeah, I didn't realize the Japanese mob was so liberal," I said. That was the first time I saw her grimace. It was a dangerous game to play, but I had to keep pushing her buttons if I wanted her to talk. So far, she'd been in complete control. She seemed to know everything about me, and I knew nothing about her. If I was going to make any progress, I had to assert myself. So I fired my mouth and ate my soup. "It took me 5 weeks to solve that box," she said, and in the corner of my eye, I saw one of her bodyguards pull out a gun. "You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup." I smirked. Nice try, love, I thought, but I wasn't about to play her game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her. So I picked up my spoon and dug into my soup. That needs to be changed if he's already eating the soup. Well, okay, fine, whatever. Again, my insubordination didn't seem to get to her, so I decided to test that cool exterior with a bit of shock treatment. I waited until she was down to a last spoonful, and then snapped at my spoon, raised it above my head, and smashed it down onto the puzzle box, shattering the damn thing and busting open the contents. "Solved," I said. She didn't flinch. I got the impression that if a bomb went off, she might yawn. She just glanced at the puzzle box, her long lashes sweeping casually to the side. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. She fixed, needs to be an extra line there. She fixed her eyes on me for a moment and then turned to her bodyguard. "Tell them to serve the fish." Right? And then we're out, right? We get the idea. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that sounded pretty cool to me. And we can see how I hope you guys can see how all that research that I did, and then input it in, the story of the tanuki, the subtext that it then allowed, and this whole, we're using essentially a meal, 2 guys eating soup, as the backdrop to this conversation. So that in itself is slightly interesting. It's not just 2 people sitting down and talking with each other. We have this, you put them in a situation where they're doing something else. There's some action going on at the same time. So that to me feels like the end of a chapter. There is more to say, and this scene is going to continue, and we're going to look at that tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to have to make that up tomorrow. But we get the idea, right? It's these 2 powerful entities boom, they've been brought together, and now the sparks are going to fly. Obviously, in the next chapter, we need to find out exactly why our protagonist is in Japan, what his talents are, why this Yakuza captain has brought him here. I already have a few ideas. We need to find out what's in the puzzle box. Okay, he's just smashed it open, and we know that it was making a metallic sound at the beginning. So those 4 questions are really going to be the basis of how we construct chapter 2, or at least the beginning of chapter 2 and the continuation of this scene. So that's all going to be tomorrow morning. So please do tune in. Please like and subscribe, and leave comments, guys. You've been great in the chat over the past week, and some really brilliant ideas coming from everyone, and certainly given me a lot to think about on how I can improve this story. Please do send in your own questions, and we can all start helping each other become better storytellers. So that's it for today, day 6, looking at how to use research and finish a chapter. So please do tune in again tomorrow, where I'll be going through chapter 2, and I continue to write before.